Hey guys, welcome to Unbothered. I'm your host, Patrick Izili. I'm currently a marriage and family therapist graduate student, and my hope in creating this podcast is to have a platform to share the things I learn as I go on this journey, and also to have some inspiring guests come on to share their stories in hopes that parts of their stories could also benefit you in your own journey. Please don't forget to like and subscribe so I can continue to provide you with some of this great content.
Hello, Ike. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm having a freaking great day today.
Why is that?
Well, I got to pass out a whole bunch of sandwiches at lunch to people that really love to eat sandwiches.
Uh-huh.
That's one of my favorite things to do. But I also went on a long walk in this 18 degree heat, 15, I don't know what it is,
Yeah, it's bad right now.
and had a bunch of cool beverages. So I feel like I was hot and then I got cold, like doing a hot and cold plunge, but
Mm-hmm.
externally and internally.
Yeah.
And then I got to pass out sandwiches. So I'm having a really cool inner body and outer body experience in addition to the fun sandwich passing out.
How come you did that earlier? Was that like an event or what was that?
Well, I have this restaurant. It's called Ike's Lovin' Sandwiches,
Mm-hmm.
and people like it. And they
Okay.
really like it when I give them the sandwich.
Did
And I
you
like doing it too. So
did you have like an opening like you do like every other month?
no opening. It's first Friday, or tomorrow's Friday, first Friday in Phoenix, and I've been coming out to the last 20 or so first Fridays out here. If you want to find me, I'll be in downtown Phoenix every first Friday, usually 7 o'clock to 11 o'clock p.m., and sometimes during the day, just passing out sandwiches. The next store
Gotcha.
opening, actually, got a little break right now. I don't have a store opening for another 3 weeks. And
Wow.
all after having three in 3 weeks.
That might be like a
Last 3
record for
weeks.
you.
Yeah, for now, right?
Yeah.
And I have a feeling it'd be like, oh, then we're opening 2 in Arizona next month,
Wow.
and then one in Huntington Beach, and then what else we got? Vegas, Denver, San Francisco.
I feel like you open up like so many stores like in Arizona, so many locations in Arizona. Like I kind of like forget that like you open up stores like in other places as well, just because you open up so many over here. So I mean, you're undoubtedly like a very busy man, but Ike sandwiches, obviously like a lot of people like know what Ike sandwiches is, but I want to like dive like a little bit deeper into Ike the man, Ike himself. So I want to like know like a little bit who Ike is and like what Ike's upbringing was like first and foremost.
Let's see. Well, my upbringing, I grew up in San Francisco, born and raised there. Grew up in the Sunset, so part that's by the beach. And unlike most cities in the world, the property value is probably worse by that beach than it is anywhere else. This is really cold, foggy all the time. I remember growing up having to wear a sweater there, or a sweatshirt, or a hat, or a hoodie, or something, and then going to other parts of San Francisco and immediately taking it off because it's too hot. That's where I grew up.
Yeah.
Both my parents were immigrants. My father came to the United States. He went to San Francisco in 1968. My mom basically 10 years later, 77, 78, and I was born in San Francisco.
Okay.
And just watched my parents as I was growing up. I got my entrepreneurial spirit from watching my dad. He had a bunch of grocery stores. So he was in that business. And then watching my mom, no English, not really any friends, and then navigating through not knowing the culture, not knowing the language, and then ending up becoming the woman that she is.
You essentially got your entrepreneurial spirit from your dad, then you got some qualities from your mom, it sounds like. Then what made you kind of like fall in love with what got you into sandwiches?
Well, so my mom taught me all about food.
Okay.
I would eat a lot as a kid. I'm talking about a lot. I remember the first time I went to McDonald's, I was eating like a Big Mac since my first time at McDonald's, like at 6 years old, and then I asked for a second one. The reason why my mom is part of the reason for the sandwiches is I would ask for food a lot. And my mom was only making 3 meals, I guess. She was a stay-at-home mom. Well, it was just me and my, I think at the time, 2 other siblings. And I would ask for food, and I would ask for food. And I remember one time I was 5 years old, and she goes, okay, I'm only going to make 3 meals a day. If you want more than 3 meals, show me the microwave, show me where the plates are. She showed me how to like turn stuff on the stove, although she was like, you can't really fry stuff. She wouldn't let me do that. And so she just basically taught me about little rudimentary stuff in the kitchen. And I started noticing, like for me, is when I'd go take whatever it was, leftover lamb or a leftover rice dish, that even then, for me, it was really easy for me to toast bread, put a bunch of sauce on the bread, and then throw the lamb in there, or even the rice. Like I would make everything into a sandwich. All my mom's leftovers, all the dinners that we had, breakfast, whatever, lunch, I would turn into a sandwich. So it all came from my mom telling me, here's how to make food. And then I guess I love sandwiches since I was 5 years old, because there I was making a lamb sandwich as a 5-year-old and making rice with ranch dressing. I mean, there was some crazy stuff. I remember my lunch of choice would be making a toasted wheat bread with peanut butter and mayonnaise sandwich. Now, I know that was disgusting to people because I was made fun of in school as a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
But I thought it was an amazing, amazing sandwich. And I was made fun of. And so I stopped after a couple months of being made fun of. And I hadn't eaten that sandwich since I was 6 or 7, whenever that stopped. I feel like now, if I remade a peanut butter and mayonnaise sandwich and said it was good, that people would probably eat it. So maybe I should go back and get some toasted wheat, do nice peanut butter and a really nice mayonnaise. And I remember I loved it, but I haven't made it since then.
Yeah, I feel like now, like with the pedigree that you have, like with all these like Ike sandwiches, I don't think I've ever like met someone that like says they don't like Ike's. Like it's such like an amazing thing you've built. But I want to go back to, do you remember the first time like you made the first location that you had? What made you decide to like go for it at that point, and like what were like the logistics into like opening that first store that that you had?
So I got the idea to open up a sandwich place or a cafe. It's like I want to open up a cafe. Got that idea in 2006. Ike's didn't open up until 2007, so you kind of, spoiler alert to what happens along the way. But the thought that I had in 2006, I was busy. Let's see, where was I working? So I had a job. I worked at Victoria's Secret. I worked at BB. I worked at Trader Joe's. I was busy selling real estate, or in 2006, busy not selling any real estate because of the economy and getting stuff in contract, and the bank not doing the loans. And a good friend of mine, and I knew I wanted to open up a cafe. My roommate at the time, his dad was opening up a restaurant, and they needed a server, or they needed a bartender, really. But I thought, if I'm going to open up a restaurant, I should probably get a restaurant job. I never worked in a restaurant other than my friends, like 3 months before I opened up Ike's. And so I had this idea that I wanted to get back into business with myself, for myself. I had a supermarket in 2001 through 2004. So I had already been in business for myself. There was a lot of stuff that I didn't like about being in business for myself. But then after working for other people for about 2.5 years, I realized, well, the grass isn't greener working for other people. I thought, oh, no, what was it? No responsibilities. When I had a lot working for myself. A steady paycheck, where being an entrepreneur, it's never a steady paycheck. All the stuff that I thought was a reason to not be in business for myself.
Exactly.
I decided, I'm just going to go work for other people and not have any pressure, and everything be consistent. But over time, I realized, well, a lot of places that I worked at, and I loved working at Victoria's Secret, and I really loved working at BB. I loved being a bartender and serving at my friend's restaurant. and then serving people with real estate. I love that aspect. And yet, even in there, like even in a place like Trader Joe's, which has really high values that they like to teach, nobody ever has the same amount of, nobody ever has the same values, ever. No two people will ever have the same values. So even though I was working at these places that I had a good time, they weren't really on the same page as me, like exactly. And I thought to myself, well, then I should just be on the same page with myself. There's also, of course, the stuff where I wasn't appreciative of those businesses, much like probably a lot of people are having right now, whether they're working for other people or even working for themselves. And so I thought, well, if I'm not going to like my experience, let me just go and work back for myself, because at least I'll control my own destiny. Now, knowing that working for myself, often there's a lot of the money to time ratio, like it's a lot of time to not a lot of money. And that scares off a lot of people. And believe me, I've been there. Like I wanted to have a consistent paycheck, so that's why I worked for other people. Though I knew that because the money ratio to time ratio is way off, that I thought to myself, then I better do something that I would do and not quit when there's no money. Essentially, I mean, I didn't phrase it to myself this way, but what would I do for free and then try to make a job out of that? And so I made a list of what do I love to do. Well, it wasn't even what I love to do. Is what would I do for no money and not quit when there's no money, because I would do it anyway. And everybody out there is doing, like, you're doing stuff for free right now. So just, I don't want to say it's unintelligent, but it's not logical then if you're going to do it anyway to try to find a way to make money doing it. If you're already going to do it for free. I'm not saying go out and do stuff that you aren't going to do, but you would do it for free and then do it for money. No, like if you're brushing your teeth already, how can you make money brushing your teeth? Yeah. Or if I'm me making sandwiches already, how can I make money making sandwiches? I'm already going to do that. So I made this list, and it was like 37 things on this list. And after going through that list, and I did try to do some other things. I was writing a book, how to meet. This was back in 2006. Wow. So how to meet women online, but get them to pay the first date. Because it's like, oh, maybe I'll be a dating coach. But everybody's a dating coach, so how can I differentiate myself? Oh, this new online thing, it's pretty difficult. So how can I meet women and then get them to pay for the first date? So I was going to do 100 dates. I got up to 97 before I opened up Ike's. That was one of the ideas. Another one was to be like an animal blogger, where there's going to be baby animals and then go and take pictures. Okay. And like, oh, there's going to be a baby panda born in whatever zoo, and go out there and let them know and be able to play. Well, one, you get to play with baby animals, but then also take pictures and report on that. But the last thing that I saw on my list was, oh, I love to eat. I love to feed people. I love to cook. I love to be creative in the kitchen. And wow, I should just open up a restaurant. And so, I mean, that was a long way of me saying I actually really did a lot of research into myself, onto what I should do. And it was very clear once I did the research on myself that I should get in the food business.
But I would have to say, for sure, first things first, like you're definitely like the most hands-on person, like every single like one of your locations that I've ever seen, an owner, a CEO, I guess you can call it. Like you're definitely like at every grand opening, you're always like just very hands-on, like with each customer, always like helping out. Why are you like that?
Well, so it starts with that list. I would do that for free anyway. Feeding people, like if we were at your house right now and somebody said that they were hungry, I would look through your cabinets, look through your pantry, look through your fridge, and I'd make food. It's not even my house. It's not even my responsibility to feed people, but I would do that. So it's like what I would do anyway. So it's easy to do it for a living. And I don't make extra money if I show up. Yeah. Or I don't make extra money if I pass out the sandwiches. It's not like I'm get an extra $1 an hour raise or something if I do that. Though it's just what I love to do. So for me, I can't see myself not doing it because I love to feed you. I love to make sure somebody's walking in, hey, do you need help choosing a sandwich? And they've never been there before. Oh, well, let me walk you through the menu, or let me just ask you questions about yourself. So for me, I really love the people aspect of Ike's. And my favorite part of the people aspect of Ike's is giving them a sandwich. I remember at the first Ike's, the original location, which was in San Francisco on 16th and Sanchez. Unfortunately, it's not there anymore. I used to play this game with myself where, and because I was the only one that worked there, and I have a pretty damn good memory, that I would know if you came in before. So if I knew Patrick didn't come into Ike's before, I want to make the sandwich, and then I just like hold out in the corner, like kind of, and watch you take your first bite. I loved, even till this day, if I know it's somebody's first time, I love watching people take their first bite of their sandwich. And I've got like stories of like, oh, this person's eyes rolled all the way back in their head, to people just like, oh my God, wow, to people being on a date and they're talking and they take a bite and then they're kind of like silent for a couple minutes and then start talking again to each other because they're really into the sandwich. So that's why I do that. That's why I'm there. In fact, since COVID, I haven't missed an opening in, I guess, 3 years or so. And I don't likely find myself that I'll miss one as long as I can go to all of them.
So, I mean, speaking of all these openings, like how many locations would you say, I mean, would you be able to like speak to how many locations you have open right now? Can you even like keep track at this point?
By the time anybody watches this, we'll be at 100 locations.
Okay.
Actually, well over 100 locations.
Okay.
We've got 18 more opening. That's just leases that we have signed as of right this second.
Okay.
And we're at 98 locations.
Do you know how many like in Arizona? Just
There's
in Arizona?
10 in Arizona. We're opening
10.
2 more, one more in Gilbert, one more in Mesa. Actually, the Mesa one's close to our original Arizona location. So there'll be 12 out here. I feel like we'll open more in Arizona just because they've been doing really well, especially the ones we've opened recently.
I had like kind of like a list of questions I want to like go through like prior to doing this interview, but I feel like it would be like more fun to go off the dome and just to kind of like dive into like the world of Ike like a little bit. So is Ike single right now?
Oh, man. Hashtag international sex symbol.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough.
Hashtag.
Okay. Let's see. And then you mentioned like your trip to like Europe coming up like pretty shortly. What are your plans for like over there?
So for sure, I know I'm going to go to Venice
Okay.
and Milan, Monaco, probably Barcelona, and Madrid. Pre-COVID, like literally the summer before COVID, I went out and I did a pop-up in London, an Ike's pop-up, and then I ended up doing a breakfast pop-up in Kiev. I ended up going to Kiev and taking a picture on Snapchat of, I went to the store and bought some stuff, and I made breakfast sandwiches for me and my buddy Matt, who I was traveling with from The Attractive Man. Yeah. And it went freaking viral on Snapchat.
Yeah.
And it was like 200,000 views in one night. And I was like, oh, I wonder if I just say, hey, meet me at this place. Anyways, so I did that in Kiev. Then I went to Stockholm as well. And I really enjoyed traveling, bouncing around, coaching. He had some guys with The Attractive Man that I was helping them coach. And then also doing the sandwich thing, because that's my thing. And so I was like, oh, well, let me go check out these other cities, do some coaching, and do some sandwiching. Well, we'll see who we want to, if anybody wants to eat some sandwiches. But for me, like I was in New Orleans last week. I just did my food and philosophy tour where I combined 6 lessons and 6 meals and using your senses, just a kind of a quantum look at what it is that you would like in life, and then connecting it to the actual human like, taste, smell. They had great music in New Orleans, so hearing, and hopefully I'll do the same in Europe this coming, I guess, next week. Yeah.
Then going off of like the menu you have at Ike's, I believe like How many options are there at this point?
We're almost at 1,000
Wow.
sandwiches.
So like, what's like your inspiration and like how you like curate the names, like how you come up with the names?
Oh, well, the names in the beginning was difficult. I remember, well, I made how the original menu at Ike's came. I was like, oh, these are the sandwiches I want to do. I had 25 meat sandwiches, 10 veggie sandwiches, and then I had a breakfast menu, so 10 breakfast sandwiches. But I didn't want to be the place that was like, oh, turkey, bacon, Swiss as the name. I wanted to name them after like cool things, people, things that inspired me. So I started naming the sandwiches after that. Then, I don't know, it was really difficult. So after about 10 things, I was like, man, well, I need more names. So I started naming them after my friends and family, using their nicknames. I didn't like call it their name because I thought this was a stupid idea. So I started using their nicknames to fill out the rest of the names for the menu. And then I totally forgot a friend. So I added a 26 sandwich. In fact, nobody knows this story until right now. It's the first time. Breaking news. Sandwich number 26, you weren't on the original menu. I just forgot, so then I had to add a new sandwich on the spot before it got printed. But now, I guess it's one of those you flex your muscle in a certain area and then you get better. Now I have like a list of names that I need. Like I have so many names, probably another 100 and something names waiting for a sandwich that's good enough to be named after these things.
On a separate note, like what can I do like in order to get like a sandwich named after me? On a
That
more
is
serious
the
note.
literally number one question I get.
I've asked you this like a couple of times, and I just keep like
Yeah.
waiting for you to give me a
So-
real answer.
There's a couple of ways. The easiest way is to just create a kick-ass sandwich that's so delicious that when I eat it, I think about it tomorrow. In fact, in the beginning, new sandwiches only got added if I made it. Because for me, the reason why the menu is so huge is I basically never order a sandwich that's actually on the menu. I try a new sandwich every time I eat at Ike's.
Really?
The only
Okay.
times I ever order from the menu is if I'm there with a friend
Got it.
and they're like, I want to get the Madison Bumgarner or I want a Paul Rubens. Then I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll split it with you or pick two sandwiches and we'll go half and half. But if it's me at Ike's, I'm just going to make up a brand new sandwich. And it might be the same sandwich but with a couple of different ingredients on it. But it's like, what am I thinking about? What do I want to eat? And let me try this thing. And then how it gets added to the menu is if, oh man, you know what I want? I want that sandwich again. Because for me, in reality, I might not even repeat a sandwich in a month because there's just so many things at Ike's. So that's the easiest way, is to create a sandwich that I eat, and not just that it's good, but that I want to eat it again before, usually it's the next day, but like I want to be thinking about that sandwich. If I'm thinking about your sandwich, done deal. You'll get a sandwich named after you. That's the easiest way. Probably the other ways are go out there and achieve things so amazing that you brought inspiration to me that I want to tribute you with the sandwich. I'm not going to say that's hard because a lot of people do a lot of things.
Yeah.
Though likely the people that are sliding in my DMs haven't done that yet.
Yeah.
Or we can do a trade. I remember, which probably maybe the trade might be the hardest. I remember back when the Giants made the World Series in 2010 and I was still broke. I was like, I want to go to the World Series game. So I just posted on my Facebook, hey, if you give me 2 tickets to the World Series, I will design a sandwich for you. And yeah, somebody definitely did that. I did the same thing with the NFC Championship game. And one of the 49ers messaged me in the DMs. I was like, I'll give you 2 tickets to name a sandwich after me. I'm not going to say who it is because, I don't want to bust anybody out. But so that's also another way, like where we make a trade, something that I want for something that you want, which would be the sandwich. So those are like the 3 main ways. I'm sure there's other ways too that I'm not aware of.
But that's definitely on my list for sure. Getting the sandwich named after me at Ike's.
Okay. I have done a few charity things where we auction off getting a sandwich named after them. However, for some reason, the 3 people historically that have won it at an auction for charity, they've never responded to me to actually get their sandwiches. So they donated the money and then they just never got it.
So you kind of like spoke to like your journey before actually like venturing off to like start your own business. And like, I mean, the reason like why you took the safe route, because I mean, it was like a steady paycheck, but eventually like you chose to like take that risk and start at Ike's. Ever since you started Ike's, have you kind of like experienced any setbacks to the point like where you felt like quitting? You were like, maybe like this just like wasn't for me. I know you said like you do it for free, but I mean, but still like at the same time, like, I mean, you need some type of like income to be able to like survive and kind of like keep going. You would do it for free, but like, was there any point where you're struggling like financially? And tell us about those like rough times you were struggling financially.
Well, for sure I had some of those times. But before I get on that, you said about taking a risk. And I think for anybody, if you're already doing things, there's not really any downside to try to make money from it. Like in reality, if you were the kind of person that could get paid to brush your teeth, you're brushing your teeth anyway. I know on Twitch, like, sure, if I just saw a thing today that there's some woman who sleeps and she makes like $1 million a month or something on Twitch, just people watching her sleep. She's going to sleep anyway, right? So it wasn't really risky for her to do that, other than maybe people thinking that that's dumb that she would even do that.
Yeah.
So just speaking of risk, if you love to do something, like it lights you up on fire, you're passionate. Like if you see me on First Friday, if you see me passing out sandwiches and talking to people or resting or just whatever, you would see me on that day. It's not a risk to go out and attempt to turn that into a paycheck.
Yeah.
Because worst case scenario is you did something that you love to do and you didn't get paid. But also if you are passionate in it, and I don't really like the word passionate. So if you're inspired by it or you're having fun doing it, and it's likely going to energize you versus have you get tired. It's likely going to be something that you're going to continuously get better at. I sucked at making sandwiches the first day. I sucked at naming sandwiches the first day.
Yeah.
Though because it's a part of the whole Ike's thing, I've gotten really good at making sandwiches, really good at, I wasn't a chef before, trained. Now I can distinguish flavors with my tongue and my nose and my creativity in the names. And then even like now the more notoriety that I've been having and able to turn that into more collabs, getting more names on there. So that only happened because I was really into it. And because I was really into it, I got really good at it. So that's everybody's thing. Whatever you're really into, you're going to get really good at it, provided you get the reps in. Because you're going to be focusing on it. You're going to do all those things. So bringing it back to your question, well, one, I didn't think there was any risk other than, it cost money to open up the store. And if the business went out of business, the money that I would have put in would have been lost. The think about how much money you spend right now on things that are a waste, whether it's your coffees, like multiple coffees in a day, or going out and spending $100 on drinks, even though, like, who wants to spend $3,000 a month? If you did that every day, $3,000 a month on drinks. The clothes that you buy, the dumb stuff that I buy, I know off of Amazon and now freaking Facebook and Instagram get me to buy stuff that I don't even want.
Oh, the expendable
with all that stuff. Yeah. So there's a whole bunch of stuff, because you asked about needing money to survive in the beginning. Well, one of the lessons I teach in the School of Wealth is we often conflate our wants with our needs. I used to sleep on the floor in the back of my old business, a previous business in 2002 and 2003, so I can save $1,700 a month in rent. Now, some people would be like, well, why would you do that? And it's less comfortable. No, all I need is a roof over my head. And believe me, later on, I end up being homeless, so I know how valuable having a roof over my head is.
Yeah.
And people are making the decisions. You don't need that new pair of shoes. You don't need these things. You want them. And a lot of folks get stuck in that. Like even right now, you could live in even if you have a family, like if you have family and you have kids, you could shack up with another family that's also trying to make it in this world. You don't have to have a house where everybody has a bedroom in it. You can share a house with another family or another two families. If you're a single person, you're on your own, you could have multiple roommates to save. A lot of people's issues with the money part is that they're mistaking what they want with their needs. You might need to have coffee because you're addicted to it, but you don't need Starbucks. Go buy an instant coffee thing. Don't go to any coffee shop ever. It's like the highest marked up item ever because they know people are addicted to it. Food. When I was broke as hell, I was eating dollar menu from fast food restaurants almost only.
Wow.
2 for 99-cent tacos at Jack in the Box, whatever the price is now. You can eat that stuff. Is it a crappier life than not doing that, having my own room and not sleeping on a floor, eating better food than fast food? 100%. But again, we're talking about wants versus needs. So there I was, and I had the first Ikes, and I didn't make anything on the first day. Sold $0. After about 2 months in, I'm like, man, we're barely making $200 a day, and that's net, not gross. Or gross, not net. So minus. Plus, I was working 12 to 15 hours a day, and I was down about that. But instead of going to feeling bad about myself, I already knew that this is what I wanted to do. So I was like, all right, well, in between customers, I just had this sheet of paper, and I'm going to come up with ideas on how to sell more sandwiches. I'm going to come up with ideas on more delicious sandwiches. Imagine being Ike's, selling already the world's best sandwiches, and then thinking, oh, I need to make better sandwiches because I wanted to get more customers. One of my first coaches ever, or mentors ever, Tercy and Matthew Engelhart, they started Cafe Gratitude, for those that know about that. They would say, what more can you do? Even if you have a great thing going on, you can always be better. What more can you do? We see this in sports all the time.
Yeah.
Kobe, he wasn't like, oh, I'm pretty freaking good, let me stop. No, what more can you do? So what more can you do isn't only when you're doing not well, it's also when you're the best ever. So it's still like that now. So there I was, struggling. So guess what? I was wanting to date a woman. We ended up dating for a while, and I was like, hey, unless you want to eat sandwiches, if you want to go out, you're gonna have to pay. I have like literally $10. I can take you out to one movie a month. Okay. But being able to do that versus some people would spend
out of their
budget, like put it on their credit card. For me, I was just real about that. I was living with a friend and paying $300 a month in rent, living on a couch before that, paying $350 in rent, because there's a difference between what you want and what you need. Yeah, would I rather have had a bed with a room where people weren't walking in and waking me up, where I would never be able to bring a date to, bring somebody home? Yeah, of course. But that's what I want versus what I need. And I've been making decisions like that when I was at my lowest, and I don't change that now. So it was while I was really, the lowest I ever got with Ike's was, what the hell did I do? Oh my God, this is a mistake. And then immediately I got into, okay, what more can I do? All right, how can I sell more sandwiches? How can I make more delicious sandwiches? How can I market it more funny? Like, I was going through those phases, because to me it wasn't about, okay, I'm going to give up. It's like, why would I give up? I'm doing something that I really love to do. The only reason why I wasn't working is because I wasn't making money.
But speaking into like marketing more funny, like I remember, like was it like on the cup? said this ain't like your mama's sandwich shop. This ain't like your
It
spiritual
says
like
best sandwiches in the world according to my mom or something like that.
yeah,
Right?
exactly. Like, but yeah, I think at that grand opening, I was like speaking with someone from like your marketing team, and they were like, they almost have to like pull you back like a little bit because
Oh
like you
yeah.
get so like creative with the ideas. But that's like awesome to see. Like, and it's awesome how you can like see like your personality like just through and through. Like with you being involved, like you can see your personality like in like the writing on like the cups, whatnot, or everything involved like with Ike. So like you're just very like involved. But I want to like switch gears like a little bit. So like obviously like we know like Ike as like the business savvy person, obviously like the sandwich wizard and whatnot. Like we know you're a very accomplished like businessman. But I also want to know, has everything always been that way? Not necessarily like in the business side of things. Does Ike have any insecurities?
Insecurities. Well, for sure, everybody does.
Okay.
Let's see. So insecurities. I for sure routinely think that I'm doing it wrong. I judge myself based on. I know from the outside it's like, oh, Ike, you must be really successful
Yeah.
from business wise. But for me, I still think I may have made poor business decisions. I'm insecure on, let's see, how I appear to other people for lots of reasons. Even in the beginning when I started speaking and coaching, and then putting that on social media, and then looking at the comments. Even now, I could get I don't want to say unraveled by a comment, but somebody could comment something and it'll bother me for sure. And I don't know, like I don't have a specific response.
Despite like the 1,000 good comments or whatever, like
Yeah.
however many
Well, for
good
sure,
comments, that one would bother you.
Now, yeah, there are definitely some nice comments that stand out that I'm like, oh, I remember that nice comment. Though generally I remember the bad ones more than the good ones. And what I found often is, for me, what actually bothers me are areas in my life where I feel like I'm attempting to prove myself in. So in a way, I won't say agree with them, though I know that one of the things I teach is no one can help you, nor can they harm you without your consent. So there's definitely people that like write negative comments to me, and it doesn't faze me at all because I don't even believe that it's even close to being true about me. It's only when they write something I'm like, oh, I actually have an insecurity about that, then it bothers me.
Yeah.
So to an extent, I like agree with them, or a part of me does.
Yeah.
Or I'm like, oh shoot, they found out. Well, I for sure have insecurities.
So anyone out there like struggling with like any kind of like insecurities, everyone does. What advice like would you have to like those like individuals on like how do you handle like your insecurities, and like what advice would you give to like people like struggling with their own battles, and like what advice would you give like on how they can handle their own insecurities?
What the first bit of advice I'd give to myself, anybody, is that bad feelings are our friends. Okay. Bad emotions, bad thoughts, they're our friends. Because they let us know. It's like a map. X marks the spot. Work on this. So when somebody comments something, or I have an insecurity about myself, I'm like, oh, that means I'm not living up to myself in this area. So from that point, you can look at one of two things. One, is it really something that's important to me? Because if it's not, if you go to it, oh no, I'm only doing it because of my dad, or because of my culture, or because of society, or because I feel like it'll impress people, then it just means, oh, well, I could just throw that away. It doesn't even need to be accomplished. But if it is important to me, if I go through and say, okay, I actually do want to make my parents happy, or from a societal standpoint, I want to do that, or the people that I want to impress, I'm one of them too. it points us in the direction, okay, so this is the area that I like to work on. So either work on it or, and this whole thing changed my life, specifically with my body. So I was like 30% body fat, pretty obese, 30%, pretty bad. And I finally said to myself, do I actually want to be fit, or do I want to be fit because people respect me more, or women will want me, or it'll make me feel better like when I move through life? And I went through that and I looked at, and I gave myself kind of, okay, you say you want to be fit. So go out there, use the negative feelings as a map to move in this direction, and either change and start getting fit, or free myself to release that as a goal. So same thing, any insecurities that you're having, look at specifically, is it something that you truly want, or is it outside influences of any kind? Societal, family, religion can get in there. People you want to date could get in there. And if it's actually something that you still want, then make the commitment to move forward. And if you don't, then allow yourself to let that go as a goal. Now, the letting it go as a goal is probably the hardest part of the whole thing, but I haven't ever gotten there because I went there and I realized I really do want it. And then I moved in that direction.
Okay.
So bad feelings, bad emotions, bad thoughts, the stuff you say in your head to yourself that's negative, they are your friends. They show you exactly where to change. Because it's easy to change your thought. No, it's not. Yeah, it's easy to change your thought. If you're having a thought that you don't like, just ask yourself, is this a thought I want to be having? The answer is no. Literally right now, just say something different in your head. I'm wealthy. I'm sexy. I'm desirable. Whatever it is, say it right now. Because that thought is just as fake as the thought that I just said right now. So anytime it comes up, just have a different thought. And you can control that all the time. In fact, you can just randomly, and it's way different than an affirmation. I'm not telling people to have affirmations, not that I'm for or against them. But if you're having a negative thought right now, no, I'm the world's greatest podcaster. I wrote hashtag international sex symbol on my Instagram way before I was obese, and I wrote that. Prior to that, when Ike's first opened, I wrote transcending the sandwich genre since 2007.
Yeah.
And I proceeded to sell 0 sandwiches on the first day. So it wasn't like, and believe me, I did not know my sandwiches were good the day I opened. I did not know that I made the world's best sandwiches. It turns out I do. Or did it happen because I wrote transcending the sandwich genre since 2007?
So you say like you're someone that's big on manifesting.
Well, we're all we're all manifesting all the time. So what you want to do, because nobody's a non-manifester. In fact, look at your life right now. You manifested 100% of that, whether you like it or you don't like that. Whether you like what you manifested or you don't like what you manifested, that doesn't change the fact that you manifested. So humans are all master manifestors. So if we already know that we're doing that unconsciously, usually change it into doing it consciously, which is like writing stuff like that, transcending the sandwich genre since 2007, hashtag international sex symbol. One of the things I encourage everybody to do is, one, make a list of your goals in different areas of life or whatever's important for you. And then for each of those things, like if you want to have 10 million followers on, or you want to have $1 million or $100 million,
Okay.
write out a crazy ass statement about that. So say if you want to have a bunch of money, well, what's it that you do? Whatever that is. Like for me, it'd be, I want to call myself the franchise whisperer. Like that's this crazy goal that I have now, where I just go around and I could just turn any restaurant into $1 billion company.
Yeah.
So write a crazy ass statement regarding all of your goals. If you want 10 million followers on whatever social you want, like what is it? You're the most funny man on, or the most inspirational. Write something like that. So audacious that when you put it on your profile, that people start messaging you that it's bullshit. I mean, that's what happened with me. I wrote international sex symbol, and people would be like, "Oh, you're ugly," or "Oh, you're fat," or "Oh, you're bald," or "You're short," or whatever. Like people would message me that in the DMs. They still do that now on TikTok.
But it doesn't affect you.
It's not that it doesn't affect me. If you want to look at how because for sure it does bother me when it happens.
Okay.
Not now. Now, if somebody says something now, unless I'm literally like trying to get like do business with them or date them or like do a collab with them.
Unless they're involved in your life.
Yeah, unless it's like a literal person that's important to me, it wouldn't matter to me, the negative feedback based on my appearance. Just from what we know about quantum theory or just atoms, if somebody's like, no, you're not the international sex symbol, you're ugly, you're fat, you're bald, you're whatever, you're short, which are the ones I get, then that helps create it just as much as somebody goes, oh, you're so sexy, you're so cute, I think I want to, I want to go out with you. They both create the same thing. If we look at life, just look at how split life is, especially in political spectrum, or just go to Twitter or Threads now, apparently. You're going to go there, and the posts that get the most engagement are the ones that are divisive. Why? Because that creates the opposite side just as much. So the reason why I want you to write something so audacious that people message you the opposite about that is because that helps create it for you. It's like the easiest hack ever, right? You're the number one podcaster in the history of the universe of all time. And people are going to be like, your podcast sucks, and that's going to help you become the number one podcaster.
I've definitely heard of like that strategy before. Where did Ike get all this confidence from? And how much of a role I'm assuming like you had like many mentors like throughout this journey, like it wasn't just you. Like you mentioned some of them like early on. How much of a role did they play like in your confidence, and like where does all this confidence come from that you obviously like elude?
I guess I'm not saying that I'm not confident. I don't feel like I'm doing something. So when the person that I'm being, I'm able to be that because I'm moving in the direction towards the things that I want. Mm-hmm. For sure, we could be out and you'll see like, oh wow, Ike is not being confident right now. But because in that area I'm not empowered in, and then as I'm moving in that way, I'm either don't really want to, and I'm only going there because my friends said, or I don't want to say peer pressure, but like stuff like that, or because I haven't been able to see that I'm exactly the opposite of whatever the negative talk is. When the negative thoughts are our friends, and negative talk is our friends, and negative emotions are our friends. You can go in there and be like, oh, there's no reason to not be confident. And this kind of sounds like, oh, well, Ike, you're just making stuff up right now. No, but it's true. If you're having a negative experience, negative emotion, negative self-talk right now, the opposite is just as true as the negative aspect you're having a perspective on right now. So for me, I don't consider this confidence. I consider this me moving through life in the direction of the things that I want. And whenever we're doing that, like I said, we're the most creative there. We're going to be really intelligent and a genius in that area. We're also going to be willing to take feedback, not as criticism, but as a way to get better.
Okay.
For sure, in business and sandwiches and even social media or teaching, when somebody gives me feedback, I don't go and beat myself. Oh, I'm stupid, or oh, I'm all these things. I go, oh, cool, thanks. But for sure, there's areas of my life where if you gave me feedback, I'm like, oh, that's right, I'm dumb. But those areas I'm not empowered in.
It doesn't give you anything to work on. But like you appreciate feedback that's kind of like constructive criticism, essentially.
Well, anything that would come as feedback. Sometimes people attempt to tell me how to run my business almost every day when I'm talking to a customer. Like, you know what, Ike, you should do, and then they'll fill in the blank. And I'll tell you, 99.999% of the time they said, this is what you should do. I definitely shouldn't do it. That's what they think is a good idea.
Yeah.
But that didn't mean that the feedback wasn't useful. because it can show me,
Yeah.
oh, well, there's the one I get a lot. No offense to vegan people, but they're like, you need to have more vegan sandwiches. And I'm like, there's like 100 vegan sandwiches. So the first thing I go to is these people are unappreciative, the people that are mentioning it. Somebody said it to me today, and I was like, you're really unappreciative. 100 vegan sandwiches, and I have more vegan food than actual vegan restaurants. But then I started asking myself, well, why did that make me go to I'm not being appreciated? Again, negative feelings are friends. Oh, I'm working on something within myself about not feeling appreciated. And it doesn't have anything to do with sandwiches, because for sure I feel appreciated by selling sandwiches. The feedback that I got, I should have more vegan sandwiches. And by the way, no, 100 is a lot. So if you're out there, vegans, I love you. Otherwise, I wouldn't have 100 vegan sandwiches. But I don't need 101 is not going to change anything. 200 is not going to change anything. You're not going to eat all 200 of them anyway. You're going to eat like 10 of them. But that feedback, it's like, oh, why do I feel unappreciated? This is something I need to work on. And not because she told me I need more vegan sandwiches, because I'm already feeling like that's an experience that I have inside of me. So I said, somebody can't help or harm you without your consent. I'm in agreement that I'm not appreciated. So now I need to figure out how come, where is it, why is that a thing? Because for sure, I'm going to go out tomorrow night and go to work, and probably 100, maybe 150, 200 people are going to tell me how much they love Ike's and how much they're happy that there's an Ike's in their town. At least 100. Like, that'll be a slow first Friday. So it's not that I'm not getting the notoriety or that. So it allows me to, as you're talking about my mentors, it allows me to slow down and ask myself the questions. This is one of the things that I learned, is the quality of your life is a direct proportion to the quality of the questions you're willing to ask yourself or of other people, but also be courageous enough, if it's of yourself, to answer the question, or if it's of other people, to hear the answer. So using that, like even just this experience about some woman telling me I need to have more vegan sandwiches, that allowed me to grow. And she's never going to know that allowed me to grow in that way.
But I mean, at the end of the day, that doesn't really like matter. That's like your journey, like with yourself, like deep down, and that's just like something you need to like figure out, like with yourself. But I kind of wanted to like pivot to like a different subject, back to the insecurities part, and I want to like know like how much of a role do you think that played? Obviously, like, you're a good communicator, like you're a good businessman, you're very courageous, and all these things.
Thank you.
Like, especially like doing what you love, like, which is one of them is like making sandwiches. But all the things that like you're made fun of for, like, let's say like being short, being bald headed, or like whatever else. People like kind of like making fun of you like at an earlier stage for all like this, for all these things that like you maybe like felt like insecure about at the time. How much you would think like that propelled you to like, I'm gonna like prove people wrong, and like this is my thing, and I'm gonna like prove them wrong, like with this thing I'm gonna become so successful, like no one's gonna have anything else to say, because I'm just gonna be this eloquent speaker, this good communicator, this good businessman. I'm gonna be like just in a lane of my own that I know I'm gonna be like so good at. What do you think that like propelled you to be where you're at now? Like all those insecurities that people kept bringing up about you, do you think that like played a role like in like making you more motivated?
Short answer is yes. Today I posted on my story, I met up with Cameron Brink. She plays for the Stanford women's team.
Okay.
She was Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year. Designed a sandwich with her. So I posted about it because we're gonna release a sandwich in the next few weeks or so. Mm-hmm. And the photo of me, like, she's 6'4", I'm 5'1" 3/4, and we both look good in the picture. But people are commenting or just like laughing and like, "Oh my God, how can he even?" It's definitely like if her and I were dating, it would be really weird for other people to see that. But the comments that I'm getting are like 90% laughing / making fun of me. Mm-hmm. the thing is it does not bother me now because when I was younger, 5, 6, 7, 8, I had been having to deal that with then 9, 10, 11, 12. So how it showed up in my life back then is women, I guess we're kids, so girls didn't like me because I'm smaller, like I'm their size or even smaller. And men didn't want to play, or boys didn't want to play sports with me because also in most sports is a size game, or so we think. So even from like kindergarten and first grade and second grade, it motivated me to, I have to play better defense, whether it was football or basketball, because I'm small and I want people to actually want me to play. So let me do the things that people won't do, like defense and pass the ball, especially in basketball. Work out more. I got into martial arts. I was able to do 100 push-ups straight when I was 12. 100% because I was motivated by the fact that
In the row or
like straight. I could do it right now. But because I've been able to do it since I was 12. Straight, like without stopping. Like I'd be like, I'll do a push-up contest with you right now.
we might have to fact check
and I was
that
like,
later on. But yeah.
And we'll just go do it.
Okay, cool.
And I just posted it on my Instagram pretty recently of me doing 101 push-ups straight. And the thing is I was motivated to get my body into that space because that's what it would take. In fact, just for people who were talking about insecurities earlier, and whatever it is that you think is stopping you from getting whatever it is that you want is actually a benefit. Because if they didn't make fun of me when I was, say if I was 6 foot tall when I was, or the same size as everybody else when I was 6 and 7, I wouldn't have become a better athlete. I wouldn't have played defense. I wouldn't have worked out. I wouldn't have become a good listener. Like, okay, what is it that girls wanted so that they would like me? And what is it that guys wanted so that they would want me to play with them or invite me to things? I went and did that because my outward appearance made people not want that. So part of what has developed internally for me, my thoughts, my writings, my teachings, even my success, because 100% when I started getting into business for myself, like Ike's was started as, all right, I really love these things, but becoming an entrepreneur in the first place before Ike's, I had a business previously, was like, all right, I need to show everybody. And so that helped. Maybe I wouldn't be an entrepreneur if I wasn't trying to prove it to anybody. Now, the only downside for it is, so I wanted to prove that I was successful. So here we are in 2023, and I don't think no matter what happens, even if I went out of business tomorrow, that somebody would be able to convince me that I'm not successful. The downside is when we use these kind of things when we were younger as motivation or to spark us in a direction. I'm going to go out and work out and get sexy and then they'll want me. Or I'm going to go and play such great defense or do 100 push-ups so all the guys are like, oh my God, we want Ike on our team.
Yeah.
Is the moment that you get accepted either by the girls or the guys or by both, in my example, then there's not motivation to continue.
That's
because my motivation was on being accepted or being liked. But if you're liked and accepted, then what's the motivation? And so that's why when I did Ike's, it's like, well, these are the things that I love. I didn't want it to come from a space of I wanted to prove this person wrong. And believe me, I love revenge in that way, or I love getting back at people in that way. I think every human does.
Yeah.
Even if they're not being malicious about it. And that's the huge downside. So I actually went through a phase with Ike's where I didn't know what to do. Like I'd achieved all the things that I wanted to achieve from a success standpoint, from being accepted as part of the group. Almost every single person from my past that I was actually close with, like junior high and in elementary school, like that I was actually close with, high school, have reached out to me in the last 10 years. And this is not to say don't do that. So any of the, oh, but this person, that's all gone. So it did kind of rock me because I was like, okay, well, what can I do? So I had to figure out new ways to be motivated, and I wanted to move. So that's why I moved it into inspiration. What is it I want to be doing? Because the other side is, as long as you're continuously trying to prove people wrong or want to be accepted, you're gonna have to create new people in your life to tell you don't belong, or that you suck, or whatever. And in the beginning, I did. A lot of the chefs in San Francisco, like, it's a really great food city. It's where Ike's was. They didn't even accept me as a freaking chef. They'd be like, oh, whatever, you just do sandwiches, whatever. Now I have 100 restaurants. Obviously, they all accept me as a chef. Yeah. And in fact, I know during COVID, a lot of them reached out to me. Like, I'm talking about celebrity chefs that were not accepting of me because I sold sandwiches. So this is a replay of being in junior high and elementary school where they didn't accept me. So now this new group, restaurateurs in San Francisco, are like, oh no, Ike, you just have a fluke sandwich shop. Okay, fine, you have 20 fluke sandwich shops. Okay, fine, you have 50 fluke sandwich shops.
It's going.
Right? So those people had to show up for me because to keep me motivated. So how is it that you can use whatever is motivating you right now, if it's from a negative aspect, to flip the script? Instead of using it as a motivation, use it as, oh, I'm going to get better, and then be better, and then have that space of, okay, from this space, what would I like now? And answer that. So this is why I started getting into teaching, because that inspires me. I love feed people. I will feed people for the rest of my life. The business aspect, though, is constructed from needing to prove people wrong.
Yeah.
And it's not something that inspires me. The business aspect of Ike's, the sandwiches aspect and the customers aspect and the feeding people aspect and creating new food, that is all in my vibe. So now that's all I do. Like, I'm not the CEO. I don't do anything. I just focus on those things because that's all I care about. As far as the business, somebody else can run it. And then so I started doing my teachings, and I've been doing that for probably 10 years now.
It's been that long?
It's been, yeah. Well, I remember I started and I was really embarrassed. And then, because I was worried, I had my insecurities and all these things. Yeah. And slowly but surely, even now, if I do a silly 2-minute video, people were like, oh my God, I really needed this. I just did one about a really good, like, about how I knew Ike's was successful, and it was probably 50-second video. Yeah. People like, oh my God, I need to hear this today. That wasn't even shared to be a teaching moment or a motivational moment at all. It's just somebody asked me a question and I recorded it. Because when we're being ourselves versus putting up a wall, people know how to.
They can tell the difference.
Yeah, they know when things are genuine versus we're faking it to make it.
Yeah.
And so for that, I got into that about 10 years ago. One, because I really loved reading and writing. And so I figured when I was a martial arts coach, I learned better from teaching. So I thought the same thing. Oh, well, if I teach, and I had one student, the first year I did my first class, I had one student, and they got the freaking best class they ever got because it was one-on-one. Yeah. And the second year, and it kept growing and growing. Mm-hmm. The part is I didn't need to prove anybody wrong in that area. And because I'm not having that, I'm not having other like coaches go, oh, you're not a real coach. Like I did when I was opening up a sandwich place saying, oh, I'm not a real chef. I'm not a real restaurateur. Because things have changed. So what is it that what inspires you? What is it that you love to do? Like you can have stuff like hang out with your dog on the list if that's something that you like, or your cat, or your significant other, or you really love horror movies. It kind of doesn't matter what you put on that list, because as long as it inspires you, you can use that as a spark to bring the same to other people. They may not be inspired by horror movies, but how you share the horror movie, like say if you did a review of it, mm-hmm. or if somebody sees you out with your animal and they're like, wow, you're really loving to that. People are looking for examples even when they're not looking for it. Like walking down the street, wow, that person's really loving with their dog. In fact, haven't you seen people out and like, oh, I really like what this person's doing? Whether they're with an animal, they're with a significant other, they're with their kids, they're with their mom. Like, we all do that. And then imagine that times, what you actually want to do. So that's kind of how I switched from being motivated by others to being motivated by what sparks me, or basically being motivated by myself.
Last question I'm gonna ask about Ike sandwiches. When you started like seeing like the success of it, and like you started seeing things were actually like going well, and you started to see the profit from it, did you ever struggle with imposter syndrome at all?
So, because sometimes it comes up in some areas still, and maybe not imposter syndrome, might be a little too much, but where I'm like, who am I to be speaking? I had never done read any books on business. And I remember we're about 6 months in at Ike's. I went from selling nothing to falling asleep at the table and waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning and hating my life because I'm still in the store and I didn't mop, sweep, chop any tomatoes. The dish sink was full of dishes, and now it's 5 o'clock in the morning. And then just a couple months later, we were on the front page of the Chronicle and said like, order ahead for Ike sandwiches. And then we were getting lines. Yelp had us as the number one restaurant in San Francisco out of all restaurants, even like real restaurants, like those chefs used to tell me. And I realized, what is happening here? I'm not the leader for that. I'm like yelling at staff, making them cry, feeling like any mistake would ruin the whole entire empire. I mean, I had just been homeless a couple of years ago, and we're just starting to make money 6 months in. And by making money, I probably wasn't making money, but like the sales were really high, and I was paying staff, and I was like, wow, okay. All the negative things about myself that had come up my whole life, I was like, that person can't run this $100 million, soon to be $1 billion. Like I was already thinking, oh my God, there's gonna be 1,000 of these, and I'm not that leader. So how can I become that leader? And I started then looking to grow myself as a leader. And I don't know, it's probably not imposter syndrome, because I don't think somebody's gonna go from okay, we're actually successful to I need to get better. It's some kind of jump. Especially I was like, oh, this can be $100 million or $1 billion one day. I need to become that leader. So then I started looking for help in that way. Whether it was a couple books. The first book I remember I ever read about business was the E-Myth Revised. I read that. And in there I was like, oh, these things I'm doing. The parts that I'm like, I recognize. I'm like, I'm doing these things is probably why I'm successful. And then the parts that I wasn't doing, I'm like, oh, that's probably why I feel like it's not going well, because there's some things that I'm not doing. Now in that aspect, I wasn't insecure about it. I was like, oh, these things I'm doing, great. These things I'm not doing, let me just implement them.
Yeah. And
I was able to be in that space. So then consistently, then my mentors, Matthew and Tercy Engelhart, I talked about them. They owned 8 restaurants. So I saw they were doing a workshop. So then I went to one of their workshops, and it was about relationships. So not really business, though I noticed, I could use my relationship to myself and grow from there. So the whole time, even now, like freaking Ike's is gonna be a $1 billion company before we even know it. And likely I'm not that leader today. Maybe someone would argue, well, you're thinking like that, so it means you are that leader today. Let me just morph into that. Though consistently since 2008, so 15 years, I've been consistently working on myself in the areas that I feel like I have deficiencies. Again, our negative feelings or negative thoughts are all our friends. if I wasn't having those negative thoughts, negative feelings, thinking I don't belong, thinking I'm not a real chef because other people told me I was, and also because then I believe them. Like somebody told me that I'm not a real chef right now, I wouldn't believe them. So consistently for 15 years, I've been working on myself, and likely I'm gonna be working on myself till I no longer exist. Whatever, it has felt great though to work on myself because I never once made it mean that I was bad or that I was wrong or stupid or a terrible business person or a bad communicator. Believe me, I think that I'm not really a great communicator.
That's not true.
Generally, maybe like in a podcast form. These like you're asking about insecurities, right?
Okay.
I think that from making business deals and decisions, I think that I'm not really good at that. But instead of beating myself up for that, like, oh, well, let me grow. And so anybody that's listening out there, whatever it is that you feel like is, if this is you, you're out there and you're feeling like you suck in some areas of your life, that's not going to help you get better. What's going to help you get better is taking it from a different perspective. Oh, I'm not this yet. And then learn that. Like, look at anybody that you look up to right now, whether it's an athlete, a business person, a celebrity, all those people, whoever it is, have one come to your mind right now. All those people were once upon a time in the same exact space as you when it came to that thing. They didn't pop out and automatically be the best business person or the best motivational speaker or the best athlete. They were in the same space as you right now, and they worked on it, and they did whatever they did to become where they are right now. And so who's to say you're not that person, the same exact, but on that journey? If you saw me 15 years ago, you're like, there's no way this guy's going to own 100 restaurants, and I'm about to have 1,000 restaurants or 5,000 or more. People stop me on the street because they sell sandwiches. It's pretty remarkable that that's even a thing. So who's to say that I wasn't Colonel Sanders, but 15 years ago, but I needed to work my way up. Or even freaking Jack from Jack in the Box, like the cartoon thing or the funny commercials. Like, who's to say you're not whatever area of life that you want to be already, like the one in that? You just needed to make your way there. One last thing with that, whoever it is that you just thought about that you put up on a pedestal, or whoever your mentor was, whoever you look up to, I urge you to go and do some research on this person. Go and find like 25 things that you admire about them, like traits. I'm talking about traits. Don't say, oh, they donated money to whatever. Be like, they're generous. Just find 25 positive traits about them, and also go out and find 25 negative traits about them. Now, that one you might have to Google. I remember when I first did this, I did it with Michael Jordan, and there are definitely people saying some negative things about him. So you can find, and this will be everything, and how you find it is be like, I Googled, I hate Michael Jordan, and then like so many things popped up. So you go Google, I hate whoever the person is, and then for each of the 25 things that you wrote that is positive about them, determine like at least 3 times in your life where you've been that same thing. Because whoever it is that you are admiring, whoever it is that motivates you, is likely because they're so much like you, and you're projecting those positive things from you but onto them, and you have all those inside of you. This exercise is called Owning the Traits of the Greats. So pick that person and look at the 25 amazing things about them, and link that to your life and how you've already been that. Because I guarantee you've already been these 25 things. You're on the same level as that person right now. You're just lower on the time scale than they are.
Ike Sandwiches. How'd you come up with that name?
Oh, so back in the day, we had MySpace as our website. And when I knew I wanted to open up this cafe, it was a cafe in the beginning, I wanted to give it a cool name. Like I said, coming up with names back in the day was not my forte. Now, if I was gonna I'm gonna open up a new restaurant, maybe in San Francisco, maybe in San Diego, and I have like 10 names I'm trying to choose from. But back then I was like, I don't know. So I put out as a poll, hey, I'm opening a cafe in San Francisco, and this is what we're gonna serve, and I had my I guess they weren't fans back then, friends, family, whoever followed me on MySpace, comment, and there were some cool ideas in there. But in the beginning, I wrote, and I don't want it to be named after me. Like, I don't want it to be called Ike's Cafe or Ike's Coffee or Ike's Sandwiches even. But all the answers, almost all the answers, like 90% of the answers were like Ike's blah blah blah. We sold ice cream too. Someone's like Ike's Cream Shop and all these things, and I had Ike. I'm like, okay, guys. So I did a second poll. Go, thank you guys for the answers. I really don't want Ike in the name. I want just something else. And like 3 people responded to that one. So I looked at all of the things on the list. So I came up with the name Ike's Good-Looking Sandwiches, Great Tasting People. So that was the name. In fact, all my first business cards, I still have a few, and they say that on there. They had the address. So give this to the artist who's going to make the sign, create the sign, paint the sign. And dude was like, do you even know how to make it? Like, that can't be a sign. It's so many words. It's not even going to fit on the thing. So he's like, I'm going to make a logo.
Yeah.
And I'm going to show it to you. So he makes a logo, comes back a couple days later, and it's like, boom. And it was Ike's, and then a sandwich, and then place. And the logo looked really cool. And I was like, actually, that looks pretty great. We'll do it. So that's how it got phased into Ike's. Now, when we turned it into Love and Sandwiches, that was 4 years in, and then I added my face to the logo. And that was done a couple things. One, I was really afraid to step in to being this entrepreneur and being that, making myself a target or putting myself out there. And this is one of those things where I said, well, be as audacious as you can. So I was like, all right, I'm going to put my face on there. That'll really create some
buzz,
some contrast.
Get people talking for
get
sure.
People talking. But the reason why I added Love and Sandwiches to it is even back then, I'd get interviewed by the local newspapers, and we went through a lot of drama in the beginning where we were getting kicked out by the city, and it turned into this big fiasco. Like I did interviews with the New York Times like 8 times, Wall Street Journal. I was on Fox News. I was in Business Week and all these like publications like for sandwiches, right? Yeah. And they would ask me, well, what's going on over here? Why is Ike so busy? Why is all this stuff happening? And I said, hey, look, I'm not saying other places don't care, but we just care more than everybody else. We love sandwiches so much, it bothers me if you don't like your sandwich. And it bothers me if you mess up. Yeah. There's times we've messed up on orders, and I know some of the other staff, especially in the beginning, that we've messed up on orders that we still remember to this day. And I bet you that person doesn't even remember. But because we care more than other people. I'm not saying other people don't care, but we cared more than other people. So we changed the name from Ike's Place to Ike's Love and Sandwiches because the love comes first, but we sell sandwiches.
Because you cared that much about like making other people happy and satisfied with their orders, essentially. Yeah,
back in the beginning, because we make our chicken kind of weird. It's not like chunky as most places. And so some people would be like, oh, actually, I was hoping a chicken breast, not this. And they would want a different sandwich. Or they would say that. I'm like, hey, even though I'm going to lose money by refunding the sandwich, I cared about you getting what it is that you wanted. You being satisfied. In fact, that's all I cared about. And I have the receipts to prove it. I didn't pay myself for 2.5 years in the beginning because I wanted everybody that was participating in Ike's, from the fans to the staff, to get what they wanted and to be satisfied. And so we'd remake their sandwich or even be like, okay, hey, I saw you coming in with so-and-so. How about this? Next time you guys come in, I'll buy your date. I'll make you look so cool in front of her. I got you. I'm sorry that you didn't have that great of an experience. but because I cared about that. It's not fake. I'm not doing that so you can leave me a good review or so you can give me a $20 tip. It's like, that's what I care about.
If someone just like wants like an extra like sandwich, like you just would just like give it to them for free. Like, I mean, that shows like how much like you care like about like your customers, and that's definitely different. And like not too many people like in your position are like that.
One time in San Francisco at the original location, so we opened until 7:00, and as we started getting busy, and because of my insecurities, like I needed to touch all the sandwiches, I wouldn't get a break from basically lunchtime, so say noon to 7. And by I mean I don't get a break, I mean like I'm not in a complaining way, but like I would just be making sandwiches. So by 7:00, because I've been there since 10, probably usually, I'd be hungry. Like what would happen is I'd get to Ike's at 10, stuff myself with the sandwich because I know I'm not going to eat till 7 because we're going to be busy. And then so I remember one particularly long day. I was like, oh man, it's like 7:15. I sit down. I'm finally gonna eat my sandwich, and we're closed. Like 7:15, we close at 7. Somebody comes in. They want to get a sandwich, and he was like, "Oh, I saw you on Man vs. Food. I'm visiting from Italy," and I'm like, "Oh, how about if you come tomorrow, I'll buy you your sandwich. We're closed. We closed like 15 minutes ago, but I'll buy you one tomorrow if you come tomorrow. Here, let me get you a coupon." And he was like, "Oh no, I'm actually leaving in the morning." So I was like, "All right." So I go and turn on the oven, put my sandwich down, wash up my hands. I was like, the oven's gonna take like 10 minutes to warm up. What would you like? And then I made him a sandwich. Oh, and then like the rest of his family showed up afterwards. So I was like made him and like 5 other people a sandwich.
That's awesome.
So they had like 6 people a sandwich. And the thing is I was like, well, I really want him to get a sandwich. I didn't want to make one that day, obviously, so I tried to buy him one tomorrow instead. But he said he was going back to Italy, and I was like, well, okay, I got to make him a sandwich now.
Just gotta make it happy.
Got to make it happen. And I really didn't want to make it. Like I was like, oh, I don't want to do it. I'm tired. I'm hungry. But that's how much it meant to me to make sure that people are made happy through my food.
Last, I feel like I came into like this like podcast like with like a list of questions, and I'm very glad I didn't kind of like.
And if you want to go and ask any of those questions, if there's any in there that you need to ask, we can totally go.
I'm definitely like glad that
I've got plenty of time.
Maybe like if we have like I'm sure we're gonna have like a part 2, then I can get into some of that. But I feel like this was definitely like way more like instrumental, like, and like to whoever is like listening, I feel like you definitely like gave way more than I could have possibly like asked for. So I definitely like do like appreciate that.
You're welcome.
If I could ask like one more question, because I don't want to take up like
as many as you want,
too much of your time as I already have, because I do know you are like truthfully like very busy. If you're to, and this is like something I'm probably gonna like ask all of my guests like moving forward, if you're to like give advice like your younger self, what would that advice be?
Ooh. I've got a few things I would tell myself. One thing, and we'll see how many things it'll be, but one thing to start is that you already know what you want to do. So I already knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to be in business for myself, and I wanted to make people happy. And the reasons why I didn't do that, or I felt like I needed other people's, like I felt my ideas weren't good enough. I felt like I had dumb ideas, but because I was judging myself based on comparing myself to other people. So it's kind of, this one's kind of 2 parts, where it's everybody already knows what they want. Everybody. I only didn't do it because I thought it was too hard. People are going to make fun of me. Even when I was going to open up Ike's, years later, I was like, oh, well, opening a restaurant is a stupid idea. It's not very prestigious unless you're like a literal chef, like from some fancy school or something. It's not really prestigious. So all those things that stopped me from moving in the direction that I wanted to were all outside influences. I would tell myself to just trust my feelings, especially not the good ones, but the ones that
All of them.
invigorate me. The ones that make me do this. Because it's been in following those that has opened up my life for me. In the moving, like another thing is the people were judging me anyway when I was getting beat up, or when nobody was picking me for teams, or when girls were laughing at me when I was 7, 8, 9, 10. And then I started playing defense and working out, and people were still making fun of me, even though I was now like kind of ripped, especially for a 10-year-old. Like I was doing those push-ups actually developed me pretty damn well. Then they were judging me for that. Like, oh, he's trying too hard. And so you're going to get judged no matter what. If you do something or if you don't. If you don't do something, they're going to talk smack. So you might as well go out and do the things. Don't let, with your podcast, don't let people not let you have that. Whatever it is that you want to do. They're going to make fun of you, talk smack, no matter what. Even if you don't do anything, they're going to talk smack. I think it was Aristotle said there's only one way to live without criticism. It's do nothing, say nothing, be nothing. Why does it matter to you who these people are that are criticizing you? Perhaps if it's your parents or a loved one, but even them, it kind of doesn't matter. If I listened to 100% of what my parents said growing up, I wouldn't be to where I am right now, or 100% to, and the same thing now. If I listen 100% to some things that my mentors say, maybe it wouldn't look that way. So that's what I would tell myself. You already know what you want to do, move towards that way. No matter what you're going to do, people are going to talk smack. And listen to yourself. You're the only one that ever has any of the answers for you. And in fact, I'm going to even double down on this. Your opinion is the only one that matters in the whole wide world. Nobody else's does. Even if you're freaking wrong, your opinion is still the only one that matters. Because then you're going to go out and you'll be wrong, and then you'll change your opinion.
That's definitely a word, and I feel like I needed like just everything you had to say today. So I definitely I really appreciate that, and especially your advice to your younger self. Like that's definitely a message I needed today, and I'm sure that's a message that anyone and everyone can benefit from. But I appreciate you so much for doing this, and thank you for saying yes without hesitation. I told you 3 days ago, and without hesitation, you agreed to do this podcast. So I'm definitely very grateful you decided to do this.
Well, you're welcome. I had a great time. If anybody out there that doesn't know me that wants to get more, you can follow me at Ike Shahadeh on every single platform, everything from Snapchat to Twitter to Instagram to Be Real. It's at Ike Shahadeh. Or if you want to learn more, you can go to my website. It's learnfromike.com. And I have a lot of free, I'll send you almost every day, a little 10-minute 10-minute worksheet that you can do. It's not even a worksheet, a 10-minute exercise that you can do daily just to change the way that you see yourself and the world.
And I'm sure after today, after if you listen to this conversation, you definitely know that's worth signing up for, and it's worth your time and everything. But I appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks so much. Appreciate it.